Good morning. Yeah, turn my music down a little bit. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to TGI Sports Talk Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Run a couple minutes late. Sorry about that. Mac and Jack were keeping me a little late, and my normal signal is when Robert Butler comes on about 8:29, and I jump off and start here, but we're starting a little late. We got Jim Beringer coming up in just a couple of minutes. I see him in the green room as we speak. Let me just do a little bit of business, and we'll get started with Jim right away. Talk a little NHL, wrap up the 22-23 season. I want to welcome everybody on Northeast Streaming Sports. Let's talk sports, obviously. If we end up on Sideline Sports, I want to welcome everybody who sees this at some point. Keep in mind that come July, we'll be getting back into the interview process. Once I get moved and get settled into our new location and get my new studio set up, we'll jump back into some interviews. And I have a little bit of personal bandwidth left. We'll get back in the interviews. We'll get back into the college sports huddle as well. Today we'll be talking with Jim Beringer here in just a couple of seconds. We'll talk a little College World Series, maybe some U.S. Open as the first U.S. Open since the Saudis basically bought the PGA tournament, PGA Tour, which we'll get into. A lot of Major League Baseball to talk about. I'm going to dive into that pitching stuff again. When you got rookies that come up and throw 86 pitches and they're pitching no-hitter and we take them out of the game. Glad you lost, Dave Roberts. And some other NFL news and NBA and whatnot. But I know Jim's got to get out on the bike trail today. So let's get Jim right in here and jump into some NHL news. Good morning, Jim Beringer.
What's going on, Keith? How are we doing today?
I am doing well. How are you? Good to have you with us as always. I think I had the right thing up there, and I didn't have the right thing up earlier. Anyway.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, no, good to be here today. We're, talk some hockey, get some things wrapped up.
Listen, it's no surprise since we last chatted. It didn't take long for the Knights, the Golden Knights, to go out and wrap up that Stanley Cup series. They obviously, and by the way, fastest team ever, if I'm not mistaken, expansion team ever to a championship. So kudos to them.
I mean, if you count relocation into this, it doesn't count. I mean, look, you can look at Colorado when they moved from Quebec to Colorado. They did it in their first year when they relocated. Dallas took 6 years from when they moved from Minnesota.
This is any sport as well, by the way.
Any sport, expansion team, 6 years in, they win a Stanley Cup. Unbelievable what they've done. 2 Stanley Cup Finals, 4 Western Conference Finals in that span. Just remarkable what this team has done. Bill Foley, Kelly McCrimmon, George McPhee, what they've done, how they put this team together, just unbelievable.
They won, so they're the best team in the NHL. And I talked a little about this with the Mad New Yorker. Is this the best team in hockey? Did the best team win this Stanley Cup?
I can make the argument they were the best team. I mean, look, yeah, the best team, the Boston Bruins, record-wise, was the best team.
Yeah.
Were they the best team on the ice? That's debatable.
Yeah.
And I think the Golden Knights were the best team this year. I think top to bottom, this team was really good. I think Bruce Cassidy did an unbelievable job. Like I said, Kelly McCrimmon put a great team together. Everybody fit in. And it shows that defense still wins. Yes, you can score goals, but this team was constructed the right way. Look, Boston had flaws. We all know they had flaws. They were able to win games that they probably shouldn't have won, the comebacks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They were, I mean, look, you're up 3-1 against Florida. A good team like that doesn't lose like that.
Right.
Like if you're so-called the best team, I think for me, Vegas, I think, had a little chip on their shoulder because no one was really talking about them entering the playoffs. So many unknowns with them. Just talking about, you look at them, when they went up against Winnipeg, you weren't sure what the goaltending was like. Edmonton, a lot of people picked against them. A lot of people picked Dallas against them as well.
Yeah.
So, they had a little bit of chip on their shoulder, and I think some people picked Florida. They expected everything, but, you look at it, and the best team won, and I think we kind of expected it because I think Florida ran out of gas. 10 days off is definitely going to stifle anybody.
Yeah, a good point. Good morning to Rick Sherlock, by the way. Good morning to CA. Good to have you with us. And happy Father's Day. I didn't get a chance to say that to everybody at the top. Happy Father's Day, whether you're a father, or happy Father's Day to your father, if it matters. And Bill Pulver makes it in time for the ringmaster, who I think he's the one who originally put that.
I think that's the original. I think he's the original with that.
I think he is as well. So, I had something I wanted to follow up with as we were talking about. Oh, yes. So I think you're right. The best team won through both the NBA and the NHL. Interestingly enough, the playoffs were pretty wild, crazy, good, really good teams going out early. But at the end of the day, I think the best teams in both of these leagues won the championships. I really do.
Yeah, I was talking about I was hooping one night with my boys before the NBA. Before the NBA finals started, we were talking about, would Denver win? How would Denver win? How many games? I was like, probably gentleman sweep. It'll be 4-5 games. It'll be like, when Philly and the Lakers met up, Philly takes game 1 and then it's just a roll through Denver. I mean, it's funny how both finals kind of mirrored each other. The South Florida teams get their victory in game 3, and that was pretty much it for the series. But, give kudos to the Florida Panthers. They had a heck of a run, heck of a series, heck of a playoffs. And the injury list that comes out is so fascinating when this stuff is over. The fact that Matthew Tkachuk played with a broken sternum, some shoulder issues as well, had 3 of the best scoring chances in game 4, plays both the rest of game 3 and game 4. Aaron Ekblad, broken foot, torn oblique, 2 dislocated shoulders, Gudis, high ankle sprain. I think I read Brandon Montour, torn labrum. I mean, what these guys go through to win a Stanley Cup, no other sport in the world does this. Guys do not play through these injuries. They're out. They're done. This is why hockey is the best sport and is the hardest trophy to win, because guys put their bodies literally on the line for this thing. Because you get your name engraved forever.
Yeah, but a lot of them get not to shave for a couple of months. That's got to be fun, too. I mean,
that's the best. You go to the playoff beard. That's it.
You guys who can grow beards, unless are guys that, grows in 17 different colors and have your, we won't get into that. Yeah, this has got to feel pretty good for Bruce Cassidy, doesn't it, too? Doesn't it? The Bruins going out the way they went out and having after the regular season they had after he's gotten the boot. This has got to feel pretty good for him, doesn't it?
I think it's some little place in a private moment, he's thinking to himself, yeah, this one feels good. But he will never come out and say that publicly. He's that kind of a classy guy.
Yeah.
But it was kind of interesting that the day, a year to the date he was hired, the Vegas Golden Knights won a Stanley Cup. And, there was a lot of talk coming out of Boston, whether it was the players, it was this. Most likely, I think management wanted to go in a different direction, because Kelly McCrimmon called up Patrice Bergeron asking about what he thought of Bruce Cassidy as a coach. Bergeron gave him nothing but respect and everything, and he says, if you hire him, you're going to win a Stanley Cup. So, look, Cassidy in Boston had the formula, right? They just ran into a good Blues team in 2019, and they didn't get the depth scoring that he's getting when he was in Vegas. It's the same system. Clog up the neutral zone, clog up the middle of the ice, get timely goals, all that stuff. Except in Vegas, he's having 4 lines that can score. In Boston, it was 1 or 2 lines, and it was usually 1 line, if that.
I think, too, you're talking about classy, too, and off the ice here during the victory parade, which had a couple of minor instances, but nothing.
Yeah.
They did a great. They did a nice job of honoring the Mandalay Bay shooting victims from 2017, which was their inaugural year, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I thought it was nice that they paid some homage to them during this parade and celebration as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody knows what happened their first year, but right before their home game, they had the shooting in Vegas. That's where the entitled, the motto "Vegas Born" came into effect. So, I mean, look, Derek England, when they had the rescuers out there that opening night, I think like with class with that, how Bruce Cassidy puts out 5 of the 6 original Golden Misfits to start Game 5, it just speaks to the ownership, the management group there. Everybody understands what's going on there. Everybody understood it, and Vegas was hungry. Vegas was motivated. Those guys were motivated. And if you look at the game, like you go back to the TV timeouts in the first period, and in the second period, specifically the first TV timeout, Florida came out strong in both of those periods, and then once those TV timeouts came, Vegas got their game going. Vegas found their legs, and they just took over. I mean, when you outscore your opponents 34-11 in a second period, you're winning hockey games.
Agreed. What's Rick got here? Most athletes know that their chances of winning the big game may only come once. Play the game. I agree.
I mean, it's tough when you have a broken sternum and you got to fly cross country. I mean,
it's hard.
And like listening to what Tkachuk had to go through for Game 4, barely getting out of bed, having his brother help him get dressed, like having his teammates like get him dressed for that game. That's even tough. The fact that he even played is in that game is something special. I mean, obviously fly cross country. I mean,
agreed.
That's with that kind of injury, never a good thing.
So, God, my mind is all over the place here today. This team, I wanted to say something specifically about this team. Now I've lost my track. But again, this team, are they the favorites? Again, it's way too early to talk about it, but are they the favorites? Here are two questions about next year before we move on. I want to talk about the Rangers and their coach, obviously. As we look towards next year, we don't know what moves are going to get made. So I know you got a crystal ball over there with you. Is this the best team? Are they favored to repeat? And will Boston, for instance, be able to even come close to the regular season success they had?
All right, so I'm going to start with the second part first. I don't think Boston's going to have the same regular season success as this year. There's going to be a lot of changeover in that team. Orlov, can they resign him? Can they resign Bertuzzi? What are they going to do? Is Bergeron coming back? Is David Krejci coming back? They have a lot of question marks. They got to sign players. They're up against the cap. I do not expect Boston to have the regular season that they did this year. I don't expect it. As for Vegas, why not? Right? Why not with this team? They've been in the playoffs every year except one. I don't expect anything different. I really don't. Yeah, there's going to be a change here and there. Maybe Ivan Barbashev's not there. Maybe Aiden Hill's not there. Okay. Plug and play, because that's what the system allows them to do. And right. Kelly McCrimmon is in the winning business, not the hockey business. So they won a Stanley Cup. Will there be a little bit of a hangover? Probably. But you know what? They deserve it. They're going to have a good team next year. And I expect them to be back in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And why not be one of the favorites to win it again?
Did they re-sign Aiden Hill?
They're going to have to move money. I think it would be a smart play to re-sign Aiden Hill. Maybe try to move out like Robin Leonard or Logan Thompson, somebody like that. They definitely want to keep Barbashev, but the market may dictate that they can't. Unless he wants to take a bit of a pay cut, unless he wants to get only like 3.5 instead of getting what the market is saying he's going to get at 4.5. So, and he fits into that system. So there's a lot of things to do.
Morning, Kenny. Good to have you with us here today. I did see in ESPN's way too early rankings, they had your Devils number 2.
I mean, look, I love the fact that they're confident. I know Greg Wyshynski puts that together. I know he's from Jersey. I know he's a big Devils guy. I know he is. Like, he doesn't make he doesn't hide it. With New Jersey, they've had changes on their back end. Damon Severson's not there. Yes, they re-signed Jesper Bratt. Yes, they're going to re-sign Timo Meier. I would not be shocked if it's this week that the announcement happens. And but again, you lose an assistant coach in Andrew Brunette, which was crucial to your power play. You use a key guy on defense. You may lose Ryan Graves. You're bringing in Luke Hughes. Okay, he's going to play 82 games. Simone Nemec is there. Yeah, your head coach is the same, but there's still things that are a little different. It may take time for guys to adjust. So, do I expect them to be in playoffs again? Yes, I think they need to be because that means that this year was not a fluke and it was a successful season. It just double stamps it that, okay, I'll run to the second round. Okay, that it was meaningful. So they have to follow it up now. And I've always said that they needed to follow it up. And Tom Fitzgerald acknowledged, which I figured he would, that he has a busy and long offseason ahead. And it started with moving Severson out. You signed Bratt. Nice contract. Keep him in a salary hierarchy. Now get Meyer done and move on and see where else you need, because I still think they need a goaltender.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned his New Jersey roots, because he's got the Rangers ranked 10 spots behind him. This is a good spot to talk about the Rangers and their new coach, which I guess the original favorite ended up being the guy they went to at the end, Peter Laviolette, which I like. I think I like him. I like the fact that he's a player's coach, but holds guys accountable at the same time. It feels like from what I've seen in the past. And the question is whether he can spark this, because there's a lot of talent on this roster. Can he get them to play to their potential? And I guess will the rentals of Kane and Tarasenko come back? Will they be back? Either one of them be back?
I don't think Tarasenko or Kane will be back. I just think the Rangers have to realize that what they have on their roster, the kids that they have need to play. And I think Laviolette will let them play. But also, think about it. Like, you need to see more of Alexis Lafreniere. You need to see more from Capo Caco. Laviolette's a great hire. Look, I think he should have been announced right away. You could tell me John Hines was in the mix all you want. It was Peter Laviolette's job to lose. I think the Rangers were waiting for Quenneville, but I think they probably got tipped off that he wasn't coming back. Because why wait this long? Why wait this long? We knew Laviolette was the favorite in May to be the coach of this team, and we waited till mid-June to make this announcement. If you thought this was your guy from the start, you should have just hired him then. So look, I think Laviolette's a great hire. Look, again, I think Gerard Gallant got a raw deal in New York.
I do too.
But this window is short for Laviolette. And now I'm not trying to project guys getting fired, and I don't want anybody to lose their job. But if he doesn't win within 2 years, they're going to be looking for another head coach. And I can tell you that right away.
That's not an unusual situation here in New York either. So
no, it's not. But I'm just saying, how many coaches is Chris Drury going to be allowed to hire before he loses his job?
That's a good point, because I was going to ask you this anyway. If this coach doesn't work out, or the team doesn't win, it may not be the coach. It might be the team just continues to come up short. Is Chris Drury going to get a chance to hire another coach?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, look, they had a plan. The plan was working. And then they just upped the plan and just put it in. They have a lot of questions that they need to deal with, and they're up against the salary cap. I didn't think the move for Tarasenko was fine. Everything else after, I think they did too much, because this team was really good and really moving. You have a good goaltender, you have solid defense. Maybe you add somebody at center, scoring winger, but you have to move your players around. You have to see what your younger players can be like in your top six, because that's the future of your organization. You look at what the Devils did. They tied up maybe I think 20% or something, maybe even less than that, in some of their top players into the cap. Meanwhile, the Rangers have a lot of money tied up in top guys that they're trying to move around now.
Yeah, great point. Couple of comments here before I move on. Kenny's got a funny one here, because you and I are very similar when you mention our teams. We grin from ear to ear. I'm not always grinning when I'm talking about my teams. I'm often pissed off. So.
Yeah.
So welcome, Ken. And Dan Harris. Thank you, Dan, for the compliment here. Dan, the key figure at Let's Talk Sports, as we all know. And I hope you're doing well this weekend, Dan. I always like working with Dan on our Friday show, so good to have you with us. And Kenny with another one. Huggins will be coaching hockey next. Bob Huggins will be talking about a little bit.
Yeah, he might be.
I don't think Bob Huggins is coaching anywhere anymore. I
don't think so either.
The string has run out on him. He's had his share of these issues over the decades. So, before we move on from this year, I don't know what that would be interesting part, but I did want to ask you about the finals ratings, which weren't good, and they're not going to be good when you're on cable TV. What are you going to do? I mean, if you're not on a major network, the rankings the ratings just aren't going to be there. And would see. I don't know that they would be worse if Seattle makes the
All
final.
right. So we're gonna dive into this, right? Because I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of people about this, and everybody's gonna talk to me about the 43% drop off and everything. Okay, you know what? If you look at the cable numbers, though, who would have thought 2.48 million people would be watching Vegas and Florida Game 5
On TNT?
on TNT and simulcasted on the other Turner networks? Okay, so there's that. The demo was a .79. They did a 1 point whatever in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final on cable. You know, look, am I critical of them not being on network television? Absolutely. Will they ever get to the level ratings-wise of the NBA? Absolutely not. But they did good. For a series that nobody, quote-unquote, nobody was going to watch, people watched it. And they did good. They did fine. They were number 1 on cable most nights. And, oh, by the way, the post-game celebration in Game 5 was over 1 million viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was second on cable. So, look, it definitely hurts your product when you're just on cable. It doesn't help. That's maybe something that they need to look into. They have to figure that out. That part, when TNT has the Stanley Cup Final, they're going to have to talk to somebody and be like, well, maybe that was the one part of the TV deal where when they got TNT, they should have had a secondary person there for when they had the Stanley Cup. You go to Fox, you go to CBS, you go to something where you can have your game nationally televised. Because I think, you know, obviously we see the numbers when it's on ESPN and ABC, the games are huge. That being said, I thought people watched the final. I think that's fine. You know, they did okay. I mean, look, that's what the numbers were. And the fact that over 2 million people watched a blowout of Game 5 and that number held throughout, that's pretty impressive to me.
Kenny talks about hockey and does make enough revenue. Does it get and I think this is kind of alluding to the casual fan. In my mind, probably the question is, do they get the casual fan? I think they do when they're on the network. And listen, hockey's always been a better sport in person. I don't think
exactly.
Right?
Like they get the casual fan for the big events, like the playoffs, the Winter Classic, the outdoor game, like all that stuff. They get the fan for. It's their marketing department needs to be different. Their marketing department are a bunch of old guys. They don't know how to market the game. Like you saw a little bit of strides with Matthew Tkachuk being all over. But they have to take advantage of their partnership with TNT a little bit more. They have to market their younger players a little bit more. They have to do a little bit better job of doing that and growing the game because the game in America still isn't good enough. Good
point. What else you want us to know? Because we head into the offseason, what should we know before I let you off to that two-wheeled monster you got to get on?
Yeah. So we check out, Winnipeg Jets got a lot of moving parts. Pierre-Luc Dubois, Connor Hellebuck, maybe Mark Scheifele, guys like that. Toronto, when does the Austin Matthews deal get done? Who moves out of there? LA's looking for goaltending. There's Saros on the move. What about Pittsburgh? What are they doing? A lot of moving parts, a lot of guys on the move. We'll see what happens with free agency. Always been a big proponent. I was talking to one of my friends yesterday. I said, I wish free agency would open after both major holidays in Canada and the United States. That way, everybody has a little bit time off together because Canada Day, everybody in Canada, all the insiders got to work. That's kind of a day for everybody now because it's a Saturday this year. So it would just be nice if we didn't have to, we could have our little holiday break and then get back to work.
Well, we'll have you on periodically to talk about the off season, and we want to get you back on once we start up full bore on the college sports huddle again. I'd like to get you back on, and as we start,
that's always fun.
That's always fun all season. But we take a little bit of a hiatus because there's just not enough to talk about week in and week out.
All right, so one college football point before I leave.
Go ahead.
I seen the schedules for I think it was fall 2024 for Texas and Oklahoma. Welcome to the SEC.
Right.
That's all I got to say. Welcome to the SEC.
I will say this, and we'll talk more about it when we start getting into predicting the real season. Right now, my major prediction for this coming season is Oklahoma or Texas wins the Big 12 on their way out.
Why
wins? I think
it may happen. Who knows?
That may change coming forward. But and lastly, CA says overall great. upcoming, going up, unlike the NBA. I see. He's talking about the, I guess the ratings and whatnot. So anyway, Jim, great to have you in with us as always.
Always.
You're the best guy in anywhere with hockey in my mind. Check out Jim's stuff on fullpresshockey.com. He does a great job, and he's certainly got a pretty large presence on Let's Talk Sports now as well. So,
yes, we do. We do. Check it out. Check it out. The latest episode, Let's Talk Pucks, is up with my buddy John Restino. Talked everything, wrapped it up. Also, I'll be with the Maniacs tomorrow night with Tanner and the King on Monday night. That's always fun.
An interesting.
Always an interesting dynamic.
You never know what will happen in one of those shows. So
exactly.
Good luck with that and enjoy it. And guys, check out all Jim's stuff, whether it's his writing or his podcast. And Jim, thank you. Have a great Father's Day.
Hey, thanks to you as well. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, or to your dad, wherever you are. But again, Keith, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure, buddy.
Absolutely. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye-bye. The great Jim Beringer. Got to get him off to a bike ride. Always great to talk to Jim about hockey and college football. We'll get into him. He'll be a big part of our college sports huddle, college football huddle as we head towards that. Let me get a couple. I left a couple of these out. I'm going to get into, let me finish up CA's. Jim, take a ride on the path to Amsterdam, have lunch at Eval. What is Eval? I don't know what Eval is. Furthermore, the Canes youth hockey has never been lower for CA. Wish I'd gotten that up. Oh, in worse shape. I get it. And Jim does a great job. So one other comment, and I guess I'll touch on this a little bit. We may be all over the place today. I was going to move right to Major League Baseball, but Rick, I did see your comment. I didn't see it till this morning that you reached out to Larry Sorensen about. I just have not had time. Been a lot going on in work, trying to keep these shows on track as best I can and get a house ready to move and a house ready to move into. And I just didn't feel I could do Larry justice. So I didn't do that, and that's on me, but we'll be having Larry on very soon anyway. And we'll get him in to wrap up, but we're going to be ruining. We're going to talk a little bit about college baseball in a little bit, but I want to talk. We're going to probably be all over the place just because these comments about Bob Huggins and Antonio Brown. Listen, maybe Antonio Brown should buy a team and have Huggins coach it because he wouldn't last a week. I don't know if he even coached one game. I was going to get into Antonio Brown during the football portion, but I think we'll spend a few minutes on it right here. There is no bigger loser in this world. He now has past Kyrie Irving in my mind because now it's hit home. He has come here and in basically a month's time, maybe 6 weeks, taken a really popular franchise in the arena football world, won 3 consecutive championships in its second incarnation. In its first incarnation, it was very popular. It would pack the Pepsi or the Times Union or whatever the hell we called it then, week after week, won a championship, cultivated with a championship. They got screwed by the league at that time, went away for quite a while, and by the way, his dad is a legend here, and he's tarnished his reputation. The guy came in here and got thrown out of 3 hotels because he didn't pay his bills or had parties that were going on. He didn't pay his players. He had 5 coaches, 2 of the same, if you count one that was there twice. He didn't pay the league, and the league kicks the team out over like $21,000 in payment of monies all the teams pay, plus fines that Antonio Brown had put together. The man's nuts. Listen, I don't want to make fun, and I say this all the time when I talk about Kyrie Irving. Mental health is a big problem, and I understand. I don't want to make fun of it, but there's something wrong with this guy. Did you watch his interview the day before? I'll get to Bob Huggins in a minute, too. The day before the league kicks them out, he has an interview where he's talking basically, he talks in a third person all the time anyway. But he made all these promises he would play, never got on the field, blamed the league, blamed whatever. He got a few thousand more people in the stands probably thinking he would play, and he probably never had the intention of playing. But Wednesday's excuse was, listen, you're talking to Antonio Brown, and I'm the wide receiver. You got to talk to AB. Talking about himself, which I guess is the fourth person. When he's talking about Antonio Brown, then he's talking about AB. So now he's talking about himself in the fourth person and saying, well, you know, whether Antonio Brown plays is up to AB and whether he's going to pay him. You didn't pay anybody. You came here and destroyed a franchise that was very popular here in town, and they may be back next year. But you wrecked something that was great here. You hurt your own father's legacy here, which I think he'll survive. Eddie Brown is revered here. And if you don't know Eddie Brown, great wide receiver. I don't know if the AFL has a Hall of Fame, but if they do, he should be in it. But what a joke. What a freaking joke. Good grief. John DeLon with us this morning. How you doing, John? John, we'll be starting up. I don't know if when you came in, we'll be starting up the college sports huddle again, probably mid-July as we get geared up for college football and whatnot. But we'll talk more about that. We're going to talk a little bit of college basketball in a second with Bob Huggins. But right now we're talking about Antonio Brown ruining a great franchise. Uvalde is the south side right in front of Lanzie's. Is that Paul Perillo? That's not Paul Perillo's place, is it? Huggins sounds like he'd be a hoot to have a few beers with. As long as he's not driving, yeah. Listen, Bob Huggins has had lots of chances. Bob Huggins had problems at Cincinnati. Bob Huggins had problems at Kansas State. Bob Huggins had problems at West Virginia. Just a few weeks ago, he uttered a gay slur during an interview. He was put on a year's probation, and which was probably, you know, a no tolerance, and he gets arrested about 2 weeks later, a couple weeks later, whatever it was. I've lost track of time. Might have been a month later. But Bob Huggins' career is over. He's been a good coach. Took Cincinnati to a Final Four when they hadn't been anywhere. They hadn't been in decades. It was a great team in the 60s, early 60s, with Lucas and Oscar Robertson. But they hadn't been back to the Final Four in decades before he got them there. Had good success at Kansas State. Had good success at West Virginia. Never got anybody over the top. And he didn't have national championships to fall back on. Bob Huggins will not get another major job. That's for sure. I don't know what happened there. Hey, Brown has just figured out that the former president's way of doing business is awesome. Listen, don't get me going on the politics of this whole thing, but in this whole thing. Good grief! It's ridiculous. How do you destroy something in a month's time? Now I know they weren't doing as good at the turnstile even before he got there. Okay, I get it. They weren't filling the place. They did a few years ago. But he always talked like he didn't want to be here anyway. Always has to, yeah, right? Always has to do an interview with his shirt off. Good morning, Drew, by the way, and happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to all you guys. I didn't get a chance. I know all of you. I'm not sure about you or John, but if you're not fathers, then happy Father's Day to your fathers, whether they're here or not. I hope I know you'll think of them today. But you're right. The whole look at me, this guy, and he's nuts. Who talks about himself in a fourth person? And Drew, you're my expert on these things. Is that in the right context when I say, if you're already talking about yourself as Antonio Brown, and then you talk about AB, I got to be talking about myself in the fourth person, don't I? Or is that still the third? I mean, if you got multiple personalities, I don't know how that works. We're all over the place. Boondocking back to base camp for your show after a hike. Good for you. We're also Six Nations Cup, UK, PD. That's a lot of dart stuff going on there for CA today. So anyway, we can talk more about AB if you want as we go through the show. Bob Huggins, you know, would he be a great guy to have a few beers with, John? Yeah, I guess he'd be a lot of fun. And I don't know what you talk about him with, because I'd be afraid I'd probably get a chair put over my head as well. We compared Bob Huggins to Bob Knight a while back. Now, Bob Knight's got 3 national championships, so he had that cachet to help him keep his job in Indiana a whole lot longer than he might have. And Bob Knight was a great basketball coach, don't get me wrong, but he became a cartoon figure of himself, basically. And Bob Huggins just did not have the type of resume. Well, it's a great resume. It's not Bob Knight's resume, and that's not going to keep him around. So that's what happens there. Let's dive into some other stuff. We'll get into Major League Baseball. We'll talk some, and I'm going to go back to my, I guess the Mad New Yorker's not here to argue with me today, so it won't end up to being a horrible thing. But I want to take you back in time. And we're going to talk about some recent events. I got to find something here while I do this. Let me take you back to June 14th, 1975. The Angels beat the Red Sox that day 4-3 in 15 innings. Nolan Ryan started the game against Louis Tiant. They both pitched 15 innings in this game. They didn't keep track of pitch counts then, but by all accounts, Nolan Ryan threw over 250. Louis Tiant had to be 35 years old at least at that point in time. And how did that hurt their arms, by the way? Nolan Ryan pitched another 20 years. 20 years? Yeah, 20 years probably. So stop telling me that the way they're handling pitchers now is the right way to do this. Compare that with today. Again, 15 innings in a 4-3 game. They both pitched well, and they were the stars, and they're getting their way to help their team the way they're supposed to. Compared to today, first of all, I won't even get into the major thing I want to talk about here. Compare that to June 14th, 2023. The Yankees and the Mets. 2 aces on the mound. Verlander, co-ace, I guess, in Verlander's case, hasn't necessarily pitched like one. And Garrett Cole, pitching really well, both of them. Out of the game after 6 innings and 1 run given up. And that's long for some of these guys. The Dodgers rookie pitcher nearly pitched a no-hitter the other night. Bobby Miller called up to start. I hadn't called up to start. Where is he? Is it Bobby Miller? If I got the right guy, I might not have the right guy. I got to find the, bear with me a second. Where is this freaking guy? Scoreboard. It was a Friday night. When did this happen? Anyway, I'll find his name. 6 innings pitched, 86 pitches. And Dave Roberts cost his kid a chance at history and robs the fans of a potential great moment of pitching a no-hitter. In his first start in the major leagues. I got the wrong guys. That's why I'm looking for the score here. Had to be Thursday night. Oh, wait a minute. Might have been. Yeah, I'm sorry. Emmett Sheehan. I had the wrong guy. Emmett Sheehan. 86 pitches. And karma being what it is, good for you, Dave Roberts. Your team loses a freaking game. tell me would guys, Nolan Ryan threw 250 innings or 250 pitches that day. Did it ruin his career? I'm not saying guys should be allowed to throw 250 pitches either. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But Drew sent me an article that I talked about on the MLB update the other day, where oh God, what was it, Drew? Uni Perez for the Marlins. They're already worried about him after being up for a month and pitching 60-some innings. You know why you got to worry about him? Because he from the time he started pitching, they've been worried about him pitching too much. Go back in time. Pitchers pitched. They threw 150 pitches in a game. They completed 30 games when they started 38. They started more games. They completed more games. They threw more innings. They threw more pitches. They pitched they threw in between starts. And you have games like this where they go out and pitch 15 innings against each other. That's a great baseball game. Now I got to watch parade of pitchers go to the mound every night, 8 innings. I hate to belabor the same point, but Jesus, God. Ugh. As long as you're not gay, he'd be fun. Bob Huggins. I'm not laughing. Believe me, don't write letters because I laughed at something about gay guys. Jesus Christ. Did you watch Wake Forest? I watched only a little of the game. I was up working, doing some stuff at our new place, and I'm just getting things hooked up on the TV. And I couldn't get the Wake Forest game on there, unfortunately. But Wake Forest played well. We're going to talk about that too, Rick. They were losing a lot of the game. They scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th to pull out a 3-2 victory, I think, and to get into the winners bracket out there in Omaha. Great job by Wake Forest, the number 1 seed in this tournament. Is it okay if we talk about the SEC sticking to an 8-game conference schedule? We can talk about whatever you want. We're talking Major League Baseball right now, but this is a stream of consciousness, and I'll jump around if I have to. I think even if they go to, it looks like those teams in the SEC are looking to improve their non-conference schedule as well, by the way. And I promise you, John, we'll be getting back to talking about the SEC on a weekly basis in just a few more weeks, once we get to the middle of July at the latest. What is this bullshit of pulling aging with a no-hitter? Just Bush League manager. It's not, I can't even blame Dave Roberts. It's systematic now. The entire sport is this way, Kenny. I've talked about it for weeks, and I'm going to keep talking about it. Because until guys like me can drown out guys like, the Mad New Yorker who think this is the way to go. This is the way to protect your millions of dollars and tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars investment in your best player or your best pitcher, and then they don't even pitch the most important part of the games, and then they get hurt because you're trying to protect them. What you're trying to do is having the exact opposite effect of what you want. I mean, we'll blame Dave Roberts for this instance. I'm glad you lost, Dave. 86 pitches. I just told you about 2 guys who threw 250 pitches in a game. One of them was 35 years old or more. He could have been 50 for all we know at that point. CA says we buy more than Nolan baseball. We use his ballpark franks. Nolan Ryan, there was in one of the groups, there was a question about Nolan Ryan. What's the first thing you think of? One of the baseball groups that I'll share this show to, obviously. We'll often put up a question. What's the first thing you think of with so-and-so? Well, inevitably, when Nolan Ryan gets asked, or that's asked about Nolan Ryan, people start to disparage his career. Never won a Cy Young. His lifetime wins and losses too close to 500. Never won 20 games. He's one of the best. He is maybe, and I said this, you can disparage his career all you want. He was one of the most amazing physical freaks of all time. Pitched well into his 40s as a power pitcher. He barely changed his game. Every power pitcher I've ever seen, Tom Seaver on, all had to change their game as they got older. They could not pitch the same way they did. And Nolan Ryan pitched the same way basically his entire career. He improved his control, but he was a power pitcher throughout. He's a freak of nature. And I will tell you this, and this is a little bit of hyperbole, but in all of sports, I can't name you anybody, and there's a lot of guys I may put on the same plane, but I can't name you anybody who is a better competitor than Nolan Ryan. I watched Nolan Ryan out there pitching with blood all over his face after getting hit with a line drive. I watched him out there take on 22-year-old Robin Ventura, who was really sorry he went to the mound that night after Nolan Ryan pummeled him. People disparage Nolan Ryan. I'm a little worked up today about pitchers. The kid in Cal, who was that? Was it during the tournament here? I think it was 156, and God bless him. Then somebody's getting it, because even in colleges, we don't see guys go deep in the games the way they should, manage pitch counts and whatnot, because it needs to start. If the kids are going to go to college, it needs to start then. If the kids are going to get drafted out of high school, then in the low minors, or even the kids coming out of college in the low minors, it's got to start. You got to start letting guys pitch and pitch between innings and build up their arms, and you won't have injuries. You'll have injuries because you're always going to have injuries. You had injuries in the 70s. Guys had rotator cuff injuries and kept pitching. College World Series and MLB. It's a good week. We'll talk about the College World Series here in a little bit. It's the second time David Robertson has done this. He's been Dave Roberts. You might have had a spell check there or something. Who did he do? He did do it, didn't he? I don't know. Was it Clayton Kershaw last year or 2 years ago? And again, Kenny, this is what I say. You hear me say this week after week on this show and on the MLB update. I'd say it on Are You Serious when the subject comes up. Brett Boone. Aaron Boone's the same way. We look at this script and the analytics, the numbers, and none of them have a feel for the game. They don't have a feel for what's happening right in front of them. And it's wrecking the game. What baseball fan, much less Dodger fan, was rooting for that guy to come out of the game? Oh, we got to protect him. What did Roberts say after this game? Do I have any quotes from Roberts? I wish I did. That was a Giants manager still marveling at the absurdity of it afterwards. Oh, this is still, that's a different play. They're just talking about playing the game. I want you to tell me about this. And here's the problem. In the write-up, it's not even any outrage about this at all. No outrage. Your bullpen stinks. You take out a guy throwing a no-hitter. No outrage from the writer at all. I mean, oh, God. So I agree with you 100%, Kenny. Starting pitchers must have no pull. They don't have any pull. And this is a rookie, so he's got no pull at all. It's his first start in the major leagues. How many guys are throwing no-hitters in the first start in the major leagues? I don't know if anybody ever has. I doubt anybody has. I'll look for this myself. Only one pitcher has thrown a no-hitter in his major league debut. It happened 130 years ago. Bumpus Jones blanked the Pirates that day. Betcha he wasn't on a pitch count. There are no real fans in LA, just fair weather hypocrites. John, you preach the same song. The sermon, I'm mixing my metaphors. You preach the same sermon, whatever sport we're talking about. You're consistent at least. And you're not wrong about LA fans. They get there late and they leave early. Went to a game once in Dodger Stadium. A one-run game I'm watching. The line of taillights leaving the ballpark in the seventh inning is just amazing. So you're not wrong. Oh, God. What else is going on in Major League Baseball? We'll come back. By the way, I had talked a few weeks ago about David Freese being named to the Cardinals Hall of Fame, which I thought, oh, crap, I'm getting all screwed up here trying to find what I'm looking for here. David Freese being named to the Cardinals Hall of Fame, and I didn't think he was necessarily, worthy. He had a big World Series for them and helped them win a World Series against the Rangers. But he had otherwise kind of a mediocre career. And I thought it was a little strange that they were naming him to the Hall of Fame. But he said, I humbly decline. This is something that I've given an extreme amount of thought to, humbly, even before the voting process began. I'm aware of the impact I had helping the team bring great memories to the city I grew up in, including an 11th championship. I feel strongly about my decision and understand how people might feel about it. I'll wear it. Thank you for always being there for me. I'm excited to be around the Cardinals as they move forward forever. He just didn't feel that he felt that his inclusion would take away from the guys who were greater players and named to this Hall of Fame. So I give David a lot of credit here. So it's an interesting story that popped up here on my screen yesterday. So anyway, I think it's an interesting story. Something to. I don't think we're going to keep an eye on it. It's probably going to continue. Zipping around the major leagues. Who's hot? Who's hot? We're going to go through this a little bit. The American League, really only I would say the Angels, the Rays, and the Orioles are hot. And they're not that hot. Oh, the Angels are playing really good baseball, 7-3. In the National League, the Braves are hot. The Marlins are playing great baseball. The Cubs are hot again with like a 5-game winning streak. The Reds move over 500. D-backs and the Giants playing well. Who's not? We'll get into this a bit. The Yankees are not. They got to get this World Series fixed. Or this World Series fixed. What kind of slip was that? They got to get this outfield fixed. I can't watch. Listen, they try hard. They're probably good bench players. I can't keep watching McKinney and Bauer out there in that outfield every night. Bader started a minor league rehab here yesterday, I believe, and hopefully we'll get him back here early next week. Judge is probably not that close. White Sox back on the bad side. The Tigers are terrible. The Royals have gotten worse than the A's. The Rangers getting their first dose of some difficulties, some bumps in the road, but to their great fortune, everybody else in the division isn't playing well except the Angels, who've made up some ground on them. Oh, I just don't know. Ohtani, 14-game hitting streak. Great call. I mean, he's also tied for the league, I think, in home runs now. He's been on a great streak. I read it. There was an article I read today, about, is Ohtani's the greatest hitting streak of all time? We got to stop this. I mean, this is what, and Ohtani's a great player. He's a great player. When you consider what he does, pitching and hitting, he's a great player. But the type of hyperbole to say, well, this is the greatest hitting run of all time, is a type of hyperbole that causes guys like Neil Bush, and I don't think Neil's with us, and I don't say this to disparage Neil in any way, but causes guys like Neil to say that he's just an invention of the ESPN hype machine. He's a great player, but when you put this type of label to a really good streak and say it might be one of the greatest streaks ever, well, then I'm sorry. No. Local product, Remillard goes 3 for 3 in his debut. Where's he playing, Drew? Let me pull him up. Actually, I'll wait for you to tell me who he's playing for. I'll take a look at. We'll take a look at his chances to play more. Abbott, he's not old, but he's old school. Yeah, but is he? Is he being allowed to pitch like an old school pitcher? I like Garrett Cole. I like Max Scherzer. I like Justin Verlander. Now they shortened his innings as he's gotten older. But these are Bulldogs who want to go out there and pitch even in today's Major League Baseball. Roy Halladay, as we started to head towards this era that we're in of babying pitchers and thinking this is the way to go. I interviewed Dick Drago a few weeks back for Let's Talk Sport. On Let's Talk Sports, but one-on-one with Keith Engel. He had 60-plus complete games, which, by the way, I mean, he wasn't a starting pitcher except for 4 or 5 years with the Royals, mostly. And he had some spot starts after that. So 61, he still leads the Royals, I think, in complete games. All the pitchers pitching today. So that's just middle of the road at best for career complete games in Major League Baseball history. By the way, I set up my new desk in my office, where my office will be in the new place, and it does not shake. So this will be eliminated after next Sunday. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Anyway, 60, I'm all over the place. 60 complete games. All the pitchers pitching today. I don't know how many that is because I can't do math. 150. 200 pitchers probably plus will start Major League Baseball games this year. You take their entire careers, all 200 of them, and I'll just use that round number, will not throw 60 complete games combined for their entire careers. I'm confident, unless something changes quickly, I'm confident that will be accurate. So I've come to the conclusion Kenny's punctuation is much like mine and most Perth graduates. Drew, please don't chastise him. I've come to the conclusion that the reason the A's are so bad is its fan base. They want them to stay supporting the team with 8,000 people in the stands. It doesn't even pay for the toilets. I've said this forever. The fans really, I'm blaming, man, there's plenty of blame to go around. To the fans' defense, they've had to play in an antiquated football stadium for decades. But even when the team was winning in the 70s, they drew 8,000 people until the playoffs started. I would like to look at the numbers from the team in the 90s and early 2000s that was so good. And I'll bet you their average attendance was pretty freaking low. Let me try something here. Attendance through the years. So, yeah, management's to blame. But you got to go out and support your team. They do a reverse protest the other day by showing up to the stadium. Who does that? Now, if you'd done that year in and year out, average attendance this year, that's going backwards. This year, 9,000. Last year, 9,800. 8,600. They didn't count it in 2020. 20,000, 19, 18, 18, 22. Now remember, let's look at their championship years. Forget about those where they were Moneyball. Let's go back to when they were really good with McGuire and Canseco. 27, 26, 26, 19, 17, 15. Go back to the 70s when they were winning 3 consecutive World Series. 10, 12, 11, 11. All of those numbers, even the ones I said that were in the 20s, are going to be skewed by big crowds in the pennant race. That's not enough to keep people coming. That's not enough to keep the team in. It's amazing they've stayed as long as they have, 50 plus years. 68, I think they went there. Lost my screen again. Hopefully it will come back. Check Abbott's few starts. Can I get him? What's his first name? Whoa. What happened here? All right, there we go. Keep losing my freaking screen here. I'm trying to get by on the monitor I've got hooked up without getting my new one set up until I move. And I'm not sure I'm going to make it. Because work-wise, it's always a freaking pain. We'll check out Abbott's numbers in a minute. Remillard, Chicago White Sox, Cohoes resident, LaSalle Institute grad, 29-year-old rookie, man. I'd love to see guys with some stick-to-itiveness, right? 29-year-old rookies you don't see every day. If I can get my screen to stay stable here, CA, I will. Oh, Jesus. I get so frustrated when this shit happens. Over and over again. Abbott. I want to check out Abbott's last few pictures. MLB. Not Jim Abbott. Not Jim Abbott. Corey Abbott. I think that's... Is that who we want? No, you want Andrew Abbott. We want Andrew Abbott, I think, right? Come on. Come on. Oh, I want minor league baseball. I want his stats now. Well, we'll find these. Why can't I find this freaking thing? There we go. Can I see his game logs? Here we go. Game logs. All right. Andrew Abbott. Well, no more than 6 innings, though, you know? If I got the right guy, June 16th, 6 innings. Pitched great. Don't get me wrong. Pitched tremendous. Maybe you're making the point that, you know, these guys should be pitching more. 6 innings, 5.2, 6 innings. But his ERA over that time is 3 starts. And by the way, this will really be good for Cincinnati because if the pitchers match their hitters, they're going to be pitching pretty well. The average against him, 161, a 1.08 whip. ERA is not an important stat anymore, apparently, because not here. 0. He doesn't get up a run. But again, 17 innings pitched in 3 games. I'm not blaming the kid. pitchers getting slammed by batted balls. Houck, the latest. Yes, that was a scary at bat the other night. He's got some facial fractures. He's going to be okay. That happened during the Yankees game. I think Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. Again, that's going to happen. But I'm sure in baseball's infinite wisdom, we will see pitchers with face masks on and helmets before long. Yeah, I mean, that's not great, right? I mean, again, not the kid's fault. They keep pulling him. They don't show. Did they show the pitches? Um, 105 pitches, 83 pitches. So pitch limits are on. Yes, Siri. I have Bixby. Wanted to look them up. I still like to be old school, Billy, when I can be. Where was I before I got off on this tangent? The standings. Orioles hanging in there, 6-4 in their last 10, but they're behind the Rays still by 6 games. I should not have doubted the Rays, apparently, because 6-4. They're the hottest teams in the American League. Nobody's really hot in the American League. The Angels are at 7-3. Angels playing good baseball. The Blue Jays have cooled off again, fallen back into 5th place. 11 games out. Red Sox they're at 500. Thanks to the Yankees coming in. The Twins still hanging around 500, leading the Central by 3.5. White Sox still in it. Nobody's going to sell. Who's going to sell? The Tigers still only 6 games back after losing 9 in a row, 3-7 in their last 10. The Royals finally won a game yesterday. See if they go on a winning streak like the A's did, which theirs is over. Back to losing 4 in a row. You got quite a race now. They're dead tied in wins with 19. But the A's have more losses. So they're actually, Kansas City has gone back ahead of the A's. Maybe both these teams will set a record for losses. Rangers getting their first feel of adversity, as I said. Not playing great recently, only 3-7 in their last 10, but nobody else is running them down except the Angels, who have gotten hot under Phil Nevin, and probably the chances, if there was a chance they were going to move Ohtani at the deadline, it's probably done. There'll be no Soto trade this year at the deadline. Ohtani was the one chance for that type of trade. But the Angels are starting to show that they may be able to stay in this. They're going to be buyers. They're going to be looking for starting pitching. Excuse me. And the Mariners still struggling along. National League, the Mets, what are the Mets going to do? While the Rangers slide, if you will, has come at an opportune time because everybody else is playing badly. The Mets slide couldn't have come at a worse time. Everybody else in front of them in the division and in the league, really, the competitors they'll have for the wild card are all playing well. Braves with 5 in a row. The Marlins with 3 in a row. Marlins now 9 games over 500. They'll be looking for a bat. And I don't want to talk about Araza's run at 400 until we get to August 1st, let's say. But the Mets now 3-7 in their last 10. They got all they can do to stay ahead of the Nationals. The Central, again, just like the AL Central, a jumbled mess. But the Reds, 7 wins in a row. The kid pitchers We talked about keeping up. We just talked about Abbott. Keeping up with the hitters like McLean and De La Cruz, who just came up. This team is for real, probably. I wrote them off. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I thought this team would have any chance at contending this year. And by the way, I'm not going to say this hot streak has them in the playoffs. Although I think if the playoffs started today, they'd only be a game or so, a couple games out of the last wild card spot. Pirates back on a losing streak of 5. This team's as streaky as anything, and I do not think they have nearly enough pitching or light up depth to continue to compete. The Cubs hot at 5 in a row. The Cardinals still. I mean, they're lucky they got the Mets. Cardinals never sell. They might this year. Diamondbacks, a comeback win yesterday. Still leading the Dodgers by 4. Dodgers can't lose enough games for me now. Pulling a guy with freaking 86 pitches. Giants red hot. 6 in a row. Only 4.5 games out of first. They're well ingrained in the wild card hunt. And the Padres managing to stay ahead of the Rockies. The best thing I can say about them. Oh, what do we got here? CA, 3 win. No, I get it. I'm fine. Abbott's performance has been really good. As has, let me take a look at the rest of this. Cincinnati Reds. Let's look at their pitchers. Who's the other? Hunter Green's the other guy who's pitched really well. Only has shown 2 wins for it, but he's pitched pretty well. And again, if this team's pitching holds up, they'll be fine. And you said Abbott's pitched really well in his 3 starts, if that can continue. But again, let these kids pitch. Hunter Green does have 100 strikeouts, by the way, and 73 innings pitched. That's pretty good. But that also speaks to how poorly the hitters in this league still are. Even with all the things MLB tries to do to make it better, batting average is up for the first time in a few years, but we're still striking out at amazing rates. So the 3 true outcomes are still in play. Right. Reyes. What did I say this time? Close enough. I'm kidding. Well, let's take a look at some of those. Stats. He's at 388. So, we got to talk. First of all, that's 12 points away from 400 is a lot. And the more bats you get, the harder it gets to keep that average up there, obviously. So we got to wait until August, and then we'll start talking about this if he's got a chance. Last guy to have 400 was a long time ago. Ted Williams a long time ago. By the way, I still think Tony Gwynn would have hit 400 if they hadn't stopped the 94 season. It's a more amazing stat to me? Shane McClanahan's got 11 wins. That's amazing today. Evaldi with 9. Those are good numbers for today. Wins are hard to come by for a starting pitcher when you're only going to pitch 5 or 6 innings a game. It's going to be an interesting race for the Cy Young in the American League. In the National League. I think Zach Gallion might be in control there. But the American League is going to be very close. Home runs, you got Ohtani with 23. Judge still in the top 5, even though he's missed the last couple of weeks. George Soler for Miami starting to get together with 20 home runs. Matt Olson up to 20. Rafael Devers, who kills Garrett Cole and the Yankees, up to 56 RBIs, tied with Ohtani. Ohtani's an amazing athlete. I'm sorry. Not as good as ESPN wants to make him out to be. I get it, but he's still amazing. Stolen bases. They wanted to see an increase in stolen bases, and they're getting it. Ruiz for Oakland's got 36, probably be their all-star participant. Acuna with 30. Acuna Jr. with 30. Wander Franco with 24. Bobby Witt, 21. More stolen bases. You've accomplished that by shortening the base path, by putting larger bases there, and also limiting the pitcher's ability to hold guys on. Good job, Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred. You have artificially increased stolen bases. Plenty of buyers. Who's going to be selling is a questioner of the short list. Agree. There's going to be, well, we know the Royals and the A's. The A's won't have much to sell. The Royals have a couple pieces. Tigers are probably going to sell. Trying to think of their starting pitcher that'll be in great demand. I wanted to go through, see if I can find it. That's not it. An article I was looking at the other day. I thought I'd go through it quickly, but now I don't have it. Yeah, now it's gone. Oh, well, not a big deal. We'll be looking more closely at, candidates to be traded here in the coming weeks. I think we may get started by the 1st of June, but we'll see. All right, what do we got here? Allen's Rangers lead Major League Baseball on average, 270. The pitching's going to be the problem there. They still lead in runs scored, I think, too, Drew, if I'm not mistaken. Listen, the Rangers are obviously better than I thought they would be. Still some things that they need to shore up a bit. Especially I think the back end of their rotation and the back end of their bullpen needs addressing. And one thing there probably will be plenty of trade probabilities for will be relief pitchers. Kansas City, for instance, Barlow will probably be in great demand. Even Chapman might be in demand. Although if I'm a contender, I don't know if I'm going to trust him. Ashcroft and Lodolo are injured. If they come back healthy, the Reds look decent. Yeah, listen, this team, I misread this team badly. Probably them and the Rangers. And the Rangers, I might have been a little, just obstinate because of just trying to be on the other side of the argument with Allen. But I certainly missed the pull with the Reds here. And to Drew's credit, while I don't know that he certainly didn't predict great things for the Reds, he did mention that the team would be better than we thought because they had quite a few guys ready to play in the minors. And I will tell you, I probably poo-pooed that strongly. So unlike certain co-hosts I have here on Friday mornings, you'll never see my mistakes go unnoticed or uncommented on. Padres hitting 228 as a team, tied for second worst. Brewers, always a Brewers. Brewers have been looking for bats. The Padres aren't going to look for bats, I wouldn't think. But the pitchers who we thought were going to be a problem, I think are carrying them. They are carrying them. And the Padres aren't done. Again, the teams fighting for this wild card race are probably going to be mediocre enough that they're not going to fall out of that race. But you're also not going to win any games with this. When you're hitting 6 points better than the worst team in baseball. Morning, Dave Guyette. Good to have you with us this morning. Sorry, I got an itch below my nose. Not picking my nose, I promise. Astros 3.30 ERA leads all other teams by 20 points. That's amazing in itself. And if you factor in the fact that they lost their Cy Young Award winner in Verlander, they lost Garcia to season-ending injury. And McCullers is not coming back. It just shows you how strong this organization is in having bodies to just continue to bring up, especially in the pitching department. And that's why the Astros, in my mind, are still the favorite in the American League to win. And they got some guys that have been struggling mightily with the bat. And they're still within striking distance of the Rangers for first place and certainly a wild card spot. Yeah, well, yeah. 6.09. What's the highest team? What's the highest MLB team ERA in history? Sorry, I didn't mean to spell that out while I typed it. Highest ERA in baseball history. This is not team. That's a. What's the lowest? I don't want the lowest. I want the highest. I mean, how do you ask for something and they give you the exact opposite of what you asked for? I don't know if this will tell me or not. This is a ways off. I don't know. Maybe you can find it, Drew. Oh, there it is. Sorry. As of today, the A's have the worst ERA in Major League Baseball. The White Sox hold the second. Oh, that's this year, though. What's the worst ever? Of course, you're not going to tell me. Why would you put any context to that? God, these guys who write for some of these internet publications are terrible. Drew, maybe you can find that for me. Yankees stealing home against the Mets was great. That was probably the best part of that series. That series was, I have to tell you, as a baseball fan, that series was not easy to watch. The best part of it was the 6-inning duel between Cole and Verlander, and it had some bad fielding by the Mets even in that 6-inning stretch. So the stealing of home is always an exciting play. I mean, what do you guys think? What's the most exciting play in baseball? Is it stealing home? Is it a triple play? Is it a triple, an inside the park home run? What's the most exciting play for you guys in Major League Baseball? I'd love to hear some comments on that. Schwarber. You know what, though? These guys, they are great examples of all or nothing. And I'm guessing, although Schwarber, I think, Drew, without looking at his numbers, which I guess I'll do, Schwarber's not walking as much as he did. Muncy is, I believe. Let me get into, let me find both these guys' stats real quick. By the way, the Phillies have played well, though, recently. And Schwarber's contributed with the bat, anyway, home run-wise. Walks, he's still got 53 walks. I take that back. So his earned run average, well, his on-base percentage is not good because 327, but when you're hitting 178, 53 walks is not bad. And he's also scored 42 runs. So 23 that were not by home run. That's not awesome by any means. But Muncy, to me, is a more valuable player because he also can play multiple positions. He's also another guy who has a good on-base percentage, which I'm going to guess before I get here, is going to be better than Schwarber's. Let's see how that works out. Well, it should be because he's hitting higher. 323. I'm wrong. Only 39 walks. So I guess it's Schwarber who's not really doing it. 39 runs scored, but 18 of them he drove himself in. That's where you start looking at these numbers and diving in and finding how valuable or unvaluable, not valuable, made up a new word now, unvaluable players are. What else? Let me see what else is going on in Major League Baseball. I think there's a few things I wanted to chat about here. We'll move on to the NFL, and I want to get into the College World Series before we leave baseball. I just want to see what else I might have missed news-wise. Dodgers, by the way, yesterday set a record for worst shutout at home in history. 15-0 they lost to the Giants. Red Sox, as we talked about earlier, say Houck has a facial fracture from his liner. He'll probably be out for a bit. A bus driver transporting the Pirates is charged with DUI. The Indians, this is an interesting story. They called up Bo Naylor and put Tristan McKenzie on the roster. He joins his brother on the team, Josh Naylor, who has been an integral part of this team, at least was last year. So you got a brother combination now playing for the team formerly known as the Indians. And I guess that's probably all I want to get into here. Drew, if you got anything else, we'll go back and forth if you want. We talked about Drew Smith the other day getting suspended 10 games. The second Met this year suspended 10 games for sticky stuff in their hands. McCullers out for the year. Trevor Bauer, is any chance he thought he might have had of getting back into Major League Baseball likely done? There's now 4 women that have come forward. And on top of the one he was accused of sexually assaulting that got him suspended in the first place. Hard to believe how far this guy's fallen. Just a few years ago, he was the highest paid player in Major League Baseball. Speaking of the Astros, JP France has been like Texas's Dunning so far for Houston. Look for both to add starting pitching with the outside chance. The Astros need hitting. Outside of Alvarez, I mean, I want to move on here, but let's just take a quick look at the Astros hitting. I think they're more likely to add bats than they are pitchers. They may add, they added Philander at the trade deadline 1 year, right? So it's not like they will not do that. But when you look at their key players, right? Alex Bregman's still hitting .234, just 9 home runs. Abreu's got 4 home runs. He's starting to hit better a little bit recently. It wasn't too long ago he hadn't done. But Jeremy Pena's taken a step back. Maybe in the second half he steps it up. Kyle Tucker, probably the most consistent other than Alvarez. I'm not sure how long he'll be out. But nobody else is really producing here. I mean, Dubon hit okay while he was filling in for Abreu. Not Abreu, Altuve. What's Altuve doing, by the way? Why is he not even on this list? Why is he not even listed here in their stats? Not really sure. Oh, there he is. 278, 3 homers, 8 RBI. So he's played well since he's come back. 374 on base percentage. Pretty much traditional Altuve. So they do need a bat, especially if Abreu's going to keep doing this. I don't think Michael Brantley's setting the world on fire. Michael Brantley even playing? He might be hurt. Maybe that's why I haven't heard his name. Left side of that infield's got to do better. Pena and Bregman have to pick it up. So, anyway. I had a bunch of notes I wrote here late. Want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I guess not. Close enough. jump in. I want to look at the College World Series here a little bit. So we've got the 8 teams, as we talked about, that were going to Omaha. They're all there. Everybody's played a game. On Friday, as they got started, number 2 Florida beats number 7 Virginia 6-5 to go to the winners bracket. They played today, I believe. Today we got a winners bracket and a losers bracket game we'll get into. Oral Roberts in an exciting game, unranked, 2 unranked teams, TCU and Oral Roberts. TCU's won a national championship before, by the way. Oral Roberts never has. I heard a statistic the other day that Oral Roberts being here to this point is like a 15 seed getting to the Elite 8. That's pretty damn good. On Saturday, and Blaze Brothers, what a great name, by the way, right? Blaze Brothers hits a clutch home run for Oral Roberts to put them ahead in the 9th inning. I think that's what a great name. That guy has got to be a Major League Baseball player. Blaze Brothers, what a great name. Saturday, we talked about, what happened here? I lost my, there we go. Number 8, Stanford played number 1, Wake Forest, lost. They won. Wake Forest won 3-2. Wake scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th to pull out this victory. They'll go on to play in the winners bracket here. I'll give you the lineups coming up. LSU, number 5, beats unranked Tennessee 6-3. So you got 4 teams now: TCU, Tennessee, Stanford, and Virginia on the brink of elimination. That's a double elimination tournament until we get to 2 teams. Saturday, they'll start playing the championship series, which will be 2 out of 3. So today, by the way, we have in the losers bracket, TCU and Virginia, and the winners bracket, Florida and Oral Roberts. You got to root for Oral Roberts, at least until they play Wake Forest. So very interesting matchups here and exciting games pretty much all around. And Monday in the losers bracket, you'll get Stanford and Tennessee and LSU and Wake Forest. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then the teams will be determined Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday if they're needed, right? Well, we won't know until later on whether those games will be needed. And just a little bit of a, where'd I put this? By the numbers, there's 8 teams here in Omaha. They've combined for 73 appearances in the College World Series and 11 national championships. LSU and Stanford lead the way with 19 appearances each, and LSU leads with 6 national titles out of those 11. 3 other schools have won a title. Wake Forest, a long time ago, 70 years ago, basically, 68 years ago. Virginia in 2015, Florida in 2017, Oral Roberts, Tennessee, and TCU. I misspoke earlier. TCU has not won a national championship. They're all looking for their first national championship. So an exciting week ahead in college baseball for sure. And maybe if I can find some time Wednesday night, in fact, I got some things to do and some people coming by the new townhouse, and I may be working from there Wednesday. So it's going to be hard to do a Wednesday college show and maybe get Larry Sorensen on, but we'll do our best here at some point. Dead horse here, but if they've gotten Goldschmidt out of Arizona, like told, hitting would be solid with injuries. Would still be solid. It's kind of a what-if situation, though, right? I mean, that's 3 years ago, isn't it? I get your point, though. This team would be really good with Goldschmidt at first base. Best I could find, the 1890 Buffalo Bisons, 6.11. So another record the A's will be chasing down this year. Exciting, exciting times for them. I got my phone going off like crazy. I have no idea why. So anyway, real quickly, In the NBA, I want to talk real quick. The Nuggets, as we said, finally win their first championship. It took them over 50 years combined between the ABA and the NBA. They'd been to one final before, lost to the Nets in the ABA. Had some good teams in Denver throughout the years. Years where Dan Issel coached, years where Doug Moe coached. Had some great players. Got to a conference final a couple of times and got knocked out. Often eliminated by the Lakers out west. They finally win their first championship. Congratulations to them. I think this team could be built to last. I think they built this team the way teams should be built now. They didn't just put out or go out and reach for three superstars. They let this team grow. Jokic is the best player in the NBA. I'm sorry. He is the first player ever. He averaged 30, 14, and 7. 30 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists. He's the first player ever to lead in all three of those categories throughout the playoffs. I think this team is built to last, and I think it's a good lesson for the Knicks and some others to take a look at. Jay Morant. Oh, God. Do I have an NBA? Whatever. Just an odds and end. Jay Morant suspended 25 games. Is it enough? I don't know. Adam Silver's logic, and the Players Association, of course, is fighting this, by the way. Is 25 games enough? I don't know. Their logic, again, was the fact that Bridges got got suspended 30 games, but that was for an illegal. There was a criminal involvement to his suspension, where Ja Morant was not. Well, listen, I understand it's legal to carry a handgun if it's registered, but it's not legal to go waving it in public. And his defense that this last time was a toy gun, whether it was or not, he sat in the commissioner's office, said he understood the severity of his actions and he was going to do better. And a week later, he's waving around another gun. And if it's a toy gun, then he's mocking the whole process. Is 25 games enough? I'm not sure. I said that for these guys to start learning a lesson, guys need to get suspended for seasons. But Jay Morant stands to lose $50 million during this suspension because of the 8 games he was suspended last year. And the 25 games he'll be suspended next year. He's going to make a lot more money next year, so he loses about $8 million a game. So you can, not $8 million. Yeah, $8 million. No, it's not $8 million a game. He stands to lose nearly $8 million for the 25 games. Plus, he lost out on like a $30 million bonus for being first team All-NBA, which he definitely would have been if he hadn't been suspended at the end of last season. And then there's some other incentives tied into for next year that he probably won't be able to reach. And it's going to be about a $50 million suspension. Salary-wise. Now, he's not losing his Nike deal, so, maybe if he's suspended a whole year, then Nike pulls out too. But we got to start. We got to start punishing these guys and setting a stronger tone, which this does. Because money's what matters. Kenny talks about it all the time. These guys start losing $50 million during suspensions and not just, $1 million or 100,000, hundreds of thousands, which to you and me is a lot of money, obviously. Not to them. $300K per game, as CA says. Again, 7.6 million, I think, is the number I saw. So, listen, not a cheap suspension for this team, for this guy. What else do we have going on here? Let's just jump into the NFL. We want to talk some NFL stuff We still got Hopkins out there. Nobody seems interested in Delvin Cook. The Dolphins seem to be the best landing spot there. If anybody's heard anything there, they can certainly jump in and add it. But Hopkins, it appears, after visiting with the Patriots on Wednesday and Thursday, the Patriots really thought that they were pretty optimistic in their camp that they may come away from Thursday with a contract. I think they're in the best position to sign him here. I think they've got a better chance to win this coming year than the Titans. I think they can pay him more money. I don't think he's going to get $10 million. He wanted 18, but he wanted more than Odell Beckham got with the Ravens. That's not going to happen. There was talk that he wanted 14 to at least match his salary from last year. I don't think that's going to happen. If in fact the Titans and the Patriots are the last two standing, he may get less than double digits when it comes to this year. And if he makes good, and I don't know if it'll be a make good contract or whether he'll get multiple years. With the Patriots, I'm going to think he may only get a make good contract. I'm not sure what the Titans are willing to do. And this could come down to the money. And Hopkins is waiting this out. I think within a week or so, you're going to see a decision made. And I think the Patriots are in a really good spot to bring him in. He'd be the leader, and he would make this all of a sudden, this wide receiver group that feels a little weak would be really good with D. Hopkins in here. You can tell me that he's, not the downfield threat that he was in the past, which he's not. But he runs better routes than anybody. Drew mentioned a couple of weeks ago that he's basically Aquan Bolden now. Aquan Bolden, if he's not in the Hall of Fame, he should be. He was a great player for a long time. Even as his speed and other attributes started to wane, he was still a productive receiver in this league with, I can't remember who the hell he played for now. He played for the Ravens. That was later in his career. Cardinals he played with, right? Maybe the 49ers. But Hopkins would make this team much, much better. He would give the Patriots a better chance to really evaluate Mac Jones. This is an important year for Mac Jones because they need to decide this year if he's their quarterback of the future because they'll have to pick up his fifth-year option. You do that after 3 years. Which seems a little odd, but you do. And if he's not going to be the guy, then they need to know. And having a better wide receiver group would certainly help that. And speaking of Mac Jones, by all accounts, unlike last year, where the reports coming out of OTAs and mini camps were, this is a disaster. Mac Jones is terrible. The offense in general was terrible. Because of the total change in philosophy, the bringing in of two coaches to put together the offense that had no offensive coaching experience, and Bill Belichick feeling, oh, if you're a good coach, you can coach any position. Wrong, Bill. Time for you to say you were wrong. Unlike last year, with Bill O'Brien at the helm of that offense, and some autonomy as teams, and putting pieces of the Alabama offense into his own offense. So Mac Jones is much more comfortable. Mac Jones really helped Bill O'Brien get up to speed on the Alabama offense, and they worked well together after Mac Jones had graduated and Alabama brought Bill O'Brien in. Mac Jones, by all accounts, looks great. And again, I get it. A lot of times they're playing with no pads, no anything. But again, last year was the same situation and he looked awful. This year, he looks great. And building up a guy's confidence now will pay off dividends later. And getting D-Hop in on this team will really help, I think. What do we got here? The Ravens overpay for Beckham and Hopkins wants someone else to overpay more. Well, that's the way it works. Especially wide receivers are all divas. And as usual, Drew, the owners only have themselves to blame for sure. The Ravens should have waited. If I'm the Ravens, I'd much rather have. And am I wrong? I'd love to hear what you guys think. Am I wrong? If I'm the Ravens, I'd much rather have DeAndre Hopkins than I would Odell Beckham. I think a decision gets made this year, and I do think, or this week, and I think it's coming down to the Titans and the Patriots. And please, I had somebody tell me he wants to play with a better quarterback than Mac Jones. He doesn't have the opportunity to play with any better quarterback than Mac Jones. Because the Ravens can't afford him, the Chiefs can't afford him, the Bills can't afford him, the Eagles don't want him. So if it comes, and the Cowboys don't want him. So if it comes down to the Titans and the Patriots, are you telling me, if you're telling me that Tannehill is, head and shoulders above Mac Jones, you haven't watched Tannehill play enough football. Go watch some games, especially big games. Go watch a couple playoff games. And Bill O'Brien, their history is irrelevant here. He was a head coach then. He's the offensive coordinator now. The interaction between the two is much, much different. And there's this bromance that's been reported on between Belichick and Hopkins. And I think the Patriots could be in the catbird seat here. Yep, gangster rap didn't start gangsters, but it sure hasn't helped society. Agreed. Agreed. I'm not sure where that plays in here, but I don't disagree with that comment at all. We got 10 minutes left here. I'm going to look at a little bit more NFL news, but you guys can feel free to bring up any topic you want. Oh, I want to talk about the golf a little bit too, so we'll go there. Let me take a quick look at the NFL. Did I miss anything? Is there any other important news? I really didn't see anything that was all that earth-shattering in the NFL. The son of Ray Lewis did die of a suspected overdose. Very sad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry this happened. I don't want to see any young man lose his life in 29 years old, I think he was. But, speaking of gangsters, I mean, I'm just going to say this. How great a father figure here, and here on Father's Day, we're talking about this. It's kind of ironic. How great a father figure could Ray Lewis have been to his son? I'm just going to say that. I don't think it was probably very good. Maybe it was. I wasn't there. But I can tell you something about my dad. He was never implicated in a double homicide. He never acted like a thug in college or in the pros, which he never played in any of those. But still, I mean, maybe I'm being too harsh, but yeah, I do, only because I want to continue my outrage. I don't blame you a bit, Drew. Jay Monahan, the PGA sold out. Last year, a year ago, and I'm going to bring it up because I'm going to show you how badly the live golfers are doing in the tournament. That's going to be my biggest comment here. But this isn't a merger. This is the Saudis buying the PGA Tour, basically. The money's all going to come from them. And a year ago, Jay Monahan said accurately that we're not getting involved. We don't want their money. We don't want them sports washing and covering up the recent atrocities, continuing atrocities, killing journalists that disagree with what we say, continued oppression of women, not to mention knocking down buildings here and killing 3,000 people. And then a year later, Oh, it's all okay. We were just kidding, and I guess we can forget about it. As frickin' DeChambeau said last week, everybody makes mistakes. Frickin' bullshit, everybody makes mistakes. Excuse my French, which I know that's not French. Just makes me frickin' angry. Let me tell you who's doing well here. And I give Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy all the credit in the world. I'm rooting for Rory McIlroy big time this weekend. That's why I will still watch golf, because a lot of these guys still stuck by their principles and didn't take the money. A lot of them were offered the money. I get it, but Rory and Tiger were offered big money. When I say big money, $700 million. Unbelievable, right? I think it's unbelievable. So will I watch, Drew? I'll watch because I love golf. I'm a golfer. It's hard to get it out of your blood. But I'm going to have to weigh how much I watch. I probably won't watch anything. And by the way, the U.S. Open is a little different because it's run by the USGA, not the PGA. So the U.S. Open is really, I say here, the first U.S. Open since the Saudis bought the PGA Tour. Not a merger. They bought the PGA Tour, plain and simple. I don't care how they rearrange the board. I don't care who becomes the commissioner. I don't care that Greg Norman's going to be out. The Saudis bought the tour. But this isn't run by the PGA. This is run by the USGA, which is a totally different organization. So I'll give them a little pass here. And it's going to be a great final day, by the way. Ricky Fowler, nothing to do with LIV, 10 under. Clark, 10 under, nothing to do with the LIV. Rory McIlroy turned down hundreds of millions of dollars from the Saudis, 9 under. Scotty Scheffler, probably the best golfer in the world right now, making a run at 7 under. Nothing to do with LIV. English, -6. Nothing to do with LIV. Schauffele, Xander Schauffele had a bad third round, and it could have been much worse. But he's still at 5 under and a shot. Nothing to do with LIV. Now we get into a couple LIV guys. Dustin Johnson, 5 under. DeChambeau, 3 under. Cam Smith, 3 under. But here's how the guys. Where'd this thing go? Ah, crap. I had this teed up here. A's. Ah, come on. I had it set up so that I could see how. I probably got it right here. Oh, man, I lost it. Nobody's doing well except the 2 guys I just mentioned. A bunch of them didn't make the cut. Let's see. Hold on. I still got. Fortunately, Google remembers my search. Let's see if this one helps me. There it is, right here. LIV golfers leaderboard. I'll get to your comments here in a second. Dustin Johnson, Cam Smith, 5 under and 3 under. Really the only ones in any contention. Joaquin Neiman, Brooks Koepka. By the way, Brooks, would your wife be able to walk around as scantily clad as she probably is at this U.S. Open if she lived in Saudi Arabia? No. The answer is no. Sergio Garcia, +2. Sebastian Munoz, +4. Abraham Answer, +6. David Pugh, +7. Patrick Reed, who's a despicable human being because he cheats on the golf course besides the LIV situation, +9. Good. These guys didn't make the cut. Phil Mickelson used to be my favorite golfer. You're dead to me, Phil. Martin Kamer, Carlos Ortiz, Milo Pereira, and Thomas Peters don't make the cut. We got a few minutes left here. Let's see what we got. The government antitrust investigation should be entertaining. PGA should be quaking in their boots because every professional league gets scared to death whenever the word antitrust is brought up. And now you've got the added factor of foreign monies backing the entire tour. Not just foreign entities, but terrorist-based states. Miami's still known as the original gangster U. Oh, I get you. Very good. You're right. They are. They are. And I root for them, unfortunately, but through marriage. Germany just upset England in the World Cup of Darts semifinals. Congrats to the Germans. Not sure who you were rooting for this CA, but congrats to the Germans. Guys, great show today. Great lively input from you guys. Good stuff from Jim Beringer from fullpresshockey.com. Please go check out his stuff. Please go check out Let's Talk Sports and the rest of the shows there. Also, Northeast Streaming Sports and the Mac and Jack show. Definitely don't forget the Gloved Fist and the Gloved Fist show if you like boxing. It airs on Mondays. And then there's also the Jim and Byron show, the NFL show that Jim Jeffcoat and Byron Williams have together on Sundays. And we'll be back here next Sunday. As far as shows coming up, we'll be doing next Friday's show, probably off on the 30th, definitely off on the 30th because we're moving. I hope to be back on the air by Sunday morning to do this show. What we'll look like doing it, I do not know. Wales fan for CA. So, guys, thanks for being here. We'll get back to some more stuff going on. Appreciate all your efforts, all you guys. I love doing this show because of the effort you guys put in. Have a great Father's Day. If you're not a father, happy birthday to your father, whether they're here or not. I'm going to see my dad. I'll see my father-in-law here in a couple hours, probably less than a couple hours. And I'll see my dad later this afternoon. So busy day with the dads. You guys have a great weekend and have and Rick, I'll wait for the music to start again. And Rick talks about lots of fun with J&B. Thank you, J&B talking football. I couldn't remember the name of the show. But watch the shows, support the networks, like, follow, and share if you haven't so far. CA, I don't think you follow TGI Sports Talk. Please go to the homepage and do it. And please, guys, invite your friends. Share this show. Share it to your page. We'll get more supporters. We'll have more fun. Guys, have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day. Keep Tangle out.